A desperate SOS crackles through the radio. All officers, including the captain, are dead. Lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. I die. Then, silence. When rescuers arrive, they find the ship adrift. The entire crew dead, their faces twisted in horror. No wounds, no blood, no sign of struggle. What happened aboard the SS Ourang Medan remains one of the most chilling and unsolved maritime mysteries in history. You're welcome back to Incredible Mysteries. Today we explore the baffling story of the SS Ourang Medan, a ghost ship that left behind more questions than answers. Was it a tragic accident, a cover-up, or something far more sinister? Stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling unsolved mysteries every week. In the 19th century, there was a very popular form of entertainment known as freak shows. It was basically a traveling exhibition that showcased people with unusual appearances or deformities. One such performer who gained notoriety in the 1840s was a man named General G.W.M. Ross. He would tell crowds of spectators that he had been in the service of the British East India Company for 35 years and had fought against Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo. He claimed to have seen 25,000 men die from gunshots, sword wounds, and cannon fire, but managed to survive unscathed. His story captivated audiences across Europe and America until one day he simply vanished without a trace. However, what if General Ross's story was actually true? What if there was a ship out there that was responsible for the deaths of 25,000 people? That is the horrifying tale of the SS Ourang Medan, aka the Ship of Death. It all started in 1947 when an oil tanker called the Ourang Medan sent out a distress signal to the Indonesian port city of Padang. The message simply read, "All officers dead. We are anchored in the middle of the Sumatra. Cannot move. The ship's doctor alone is alive and in charge." This cryptic note raised some serious concerns. Why were all the crew members dead? How did they die? And why was the doctor alone the only survivor? What happened to him? After receiving this bizarre message, the local authorities dispatched two ships, the Padang and the Sepadi, to investigate. They found the Ourang Medan anchored just off the coast. A small boat was sent over to check it out, and what the crew discovered next would haunt them for the rest of their lives. At first glance, everything appeared to be normal. There was no sign of damage, no leaks, or anything else that could explain why the crew sent out a distress call. But once they boarded the ship, things took a terrifying turn. All the crew members were found dead at their post. The captain was slumped over his desk, the sailors were collapsed on the deck, and even the cook was discovered face down in the galley. Every single person was still wearing their life jacket, which made no sense because the ship hadn't sunk and there was no indication of a struggle. Their bodies showed no signs of trauma either. They weren't stabbed, shot, or bedding. In fact, they were eerily calm, as if they had peacefully fallen asleep while on duty. But then the investigators noticed something strange. Some of the men had their hands raised as if they were trying to grab something, while others had their mouths wide open as if they were screaming for help. And to make matters even more bizarre, all the food in the galley was still perfectly edible. No one had even touched it. This was really weird because the crew hadn't eaten for days. Empty plates and dishes suggested that everyone had abruptly abandoned their meals. What's even stranger is that the investigators didn't find any evidence of foul play. There was no indication that the crew had been poisoned or that a contagious disease had swept through the ship. It was like the entire crew had suddenly dropped dead for no apparent reason. And this wasn't a small crew. There were 258 people on board the Ourang Medan, including the passengers, crew members, and the 9-person crew of the tugboat that was hitched onto the deck. But none of them were alive when the rescue ships arrived. So how exactly did they die? To make things even weirder, when the workers from the rescue ships began to remove the bodies, many of them started bleeding from their nostrils and ears. And the stench emanating from the corpses was unlike anything they had ever smelled before. It was so bad that the workers immediately abandoned their task and fled the ship. Apparently, the stench was similar to that of decaying human flesh, mixed with the strong odor of chlorine. Whoever or whatever had killed these people left behind a lingering scent of death. And here's where things get even crazier. As the workers retreated from the ship, many of them claimed to hear voices coming from below deck. They described hearing screams, moans, and the sound of people dragging themselves across the floor. Some even reported seeing shadowy figures moving around on the lower decks. Of course, nobody dared go back down there to investigate. Once the full extent of the tragedy became known, the military was called in to secure the area. Nobody was allowed to approach the Ourang Medan, and the corpses were burned at sea to prevent the spread of disease. But the mystery surrounding the deaths of the 258 people aboard the Ourang Medan has never been solved. There have been many theories proposed over the years, but none of them can definitively explain what happened on that fateful voyage. One of the most popular theories is that all the crew members died from exposure to poisonous gas. According to this theory, a chemical reaction between the cargo of the ship and the seawater produced a deadly cloud of gas that quickly knocked out the crew. The gas is believed to have seeped into their lungs and killed them instantly. However, there's no evidence to support this theory, and it does not explain why the bodies were found with their mouths open as if they were trying to scream or breathe. Another popular theory is that a highly contagious virus was responsible for the deaths. This virus is believed to have spread rapidly through the crew, causing them to collapse and die within hours. However, again, there's no evidence to support this theory. If the virus had been so deadly, it would have quickly spread to the nearby ships and wiped out the entire population of Padang. Some people believe that a nuclear explosion was responsible for the deaths. This theory is supported by the fact that many of the bodies were found with their mouths open and their eyes staring blankly ahead. But there were no signs of radiation poisoning, and a nuclear explosion of that size would have caused much more damage than a few dead crew members. Here's another scary theory. Some believe that the crew was killed and disposed of by a secret society known as the Skull and Bones. This group is said to have been formed by the descendants of European aristocrats who lived in Indonesia during the colonial era. They are rumored to have practiced human sacrifice and other dark rituals. So it's possible that they killed the crew of the Ourang Medan and then dragged their bodies around on the lower decks. But there's no evidence to support this theory either. Many people also believe that the events on the Ourang Medan were the result of paranormal activity. Some say the ship is cursed, while others believe it may have been built over the site of an ancient burial ground. This may explain why the crew heard voices and saw shadowy figures moving around on the lower decks. But ultimately, there's no way to prove or disprove this theory. What makes the Ourang Medan case even more disturbing is that there have been many similar cases throughout history. These mysterious deaths have led some people to believe that there is a curse on the seas that claims the lives of unsuspecting sailors. Of course, this is just a superstitious myth. But it's hard to deny that there have been a large number of unexplained maritime disasters throughout history. For example, in 1911, the Titan sank in the North Atlantic Ocean with more than 1,500 people on board. Despite being one of the largest ships of its time, the Titan went down in less than 30 minutes after hitting an iceberg. Only 7 people survived the disaster. Then we have the Empress of Ireland, which sank in 1914 after colliding with a coal ship in the St. Lawrence River. More than 1,000 people died in the accident, making it Canada's worst maritime disaster. And let's not forget the Laconia, which was a British ocean liner that was torpedoed by a German U-boat in 1940. More than 1,100 people were on board when the ship sank, but only 3 lifeboats were launched to rescue survivors. Many of the passengers and crew members were left stranded in the water for days, and those who were eventually rescued suffered horrific injuries from exposure to the sun and dehydration. These are just a few examples of the many maritime disasters that have claimed the lives of thousands of people. While we may never know exactly what happened to the Ourang Medan and its crew, we can learn from the mistakes that were made. Many of the ships involved in these disasters were overcrowded and poorly maintained, and the lack of lifeboats and rescue operations contributed to the high death tolls. Hopefully we have learned from these tragedies, and the shipping industry has improved safety measures to prevent similar accidents from happening today. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave us a like and subscribe for more chilling tales. And if you have any scary stories of your own, we encourage you to share them with us in the comments below. Who knows, your story may even be featured on our channel. Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible mysteries.